Sharks have long captured the imaginations of people, inspiring both awe and fear. But the stories we're about to share are not for the faint of heart. These are the 3 real-life accounts of people who found themselves in a fight for their lives against one of nature's most formidable predators. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. From the infamous attacks of the great white shark to the surprising ferocity of the tiger shark. Welcome to Final Affliction. This is a shocking reminder of the dangers faced by divers and fishermen every day. This particular shark attack took place off the coast of Vanuatu Island, the second largest island of Fiji. Known for its natural beauty, its rugged mountains and hills are covered in dense rainforest, providing a haven for a range of wildlife. Its fringes are comprised of sandy beaches, coral reefs, and the deep blue of the Pacific Ocean. Maika Tabua was a 44-year-old father of 7 from the village of Naikaki. He had been diving and fishing in the seas off the island for more than 10 years. On March 10, 2016, he stepped into the water with a group of friends never to return. The group of them were free diving for bêche de mer, otherwise known as sea cucumbers. This type of fishing is a common activity among local communities in Fiji. The echinoderms are served up as a delicacy in places like China, where they are often exported to. In fact, sea cucumber exports from Fiji amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. Although the Fijian sea cucumber fishery has been fished for over 200 years, it has now come under serious threat from overfishing in recent years. For the time being, fishing for them with scuba diving gear has been banned until stocks recover. However, in 2016, free diving to harvest these unusual animals was an activity that Maika was well versed in. He would take a deep breath, submerge beneath the waves, and dive down to the ocean floor. Plucking the 30-centimeter long sea cucumbers from the sea floor and placing them in his mesh bag was something he did for 2 to 4 hours a day until he had enough to sell to a middleman at the market. From there, the sea cucumbers were boiled, dried, salted, and sold to a large company before being exported to Asia. On this particular occasion, he and his fishing companions spread out in the water, each one of them diving down to search for the sea cucumbers that littered the underwater ground. They fished near the mouth of the Yanaway River, where it flowed into the sea. The influx of fresh water provided nutrients for the marine life that lived nearby. The shallows were awash with wildlife. Marine algae attracted small fish, the small fish attracting bigger ones, and those attracting sharks. There are many different species of shark that frequent Fijian waters. These range from reef sharks to bull and tiger sharks. They scour the coastline and search for prey and even enter the rivers from the sea. As Maika filled his mesh bag, he had attracted unwanted attention. A shark was on the hunt nearby. It honed its senses on the fishermen. As the population of sea cucumbers has reduced, Fijian fishermen have to risk their lives diving in deeper and deeper water. Maika and the others, however, were in relatively shallow water near the reef. Maika was closest to the predator. It would have taken him completely by surprise. Its rapid speed, precise attack, and powerful jaws would have caused catastrophic damage to the fisherman in seconds. He wouldn't have time to cry out for help or fight back. The murkiness of the water, caused by the currents where the river met the sea, made spotting a predator approaching almost impossible. Minutes after the attack, when Maika had been killed almost instantly, his friends bobbed up to the surface. They had caught a fair amount of sea cucumbers and now swam to the shore to take stock of their catch and regroup. They looked around for Maika. He was nowhere to be seen. But as they scanned the water, they spotted something. It made their hearts leap. and a sense of dread came over them. There, bobbing in the water, was a body. Two of the men, Elisa Tuinawaria and Simone Ligavaki, who happened to be Micah's cousins, dived into the water. They made a rapid dash to the body. When they got there, they had the shock of their lives. It was definitely Micah, but in a gruesome reality, his head and left arm were missing, and he had huge bite marks taken from his thighs. His body floated vertically in the water, his feet still dangling beneath its surface. The men dragged him to shore, and in shock and terror, they wrapped his body up and drove him to Savu Savu Hospital. The doctors confirmed it was a shark attack and, at the time of the media report, were awaiting expert analysis to determine what species had been responsible. Micah had died doing something he loved. He had been with friends and family, but his life had been cut tragically short. The attack on the young family man sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community. His wife, Asanati Kima, and children were obviously traumatized by the news. The police conducted an investigation and a search for Micah's remains ensued. Only his face mask was found. Fernando de Noronha is a beautiful archipelago consisting of 21 islands 220 miles off the Brazilian coast. Covered in volcanic rock and fringed by golden sands, they made a stunning location for tourists. Playa do Soeste, also known as Soeste Bay, is a popular beach located on the island of Fernando de Noronha. It is known for its calm and clear waters, making it a great spot for snorkeling and diving to see the rich marine life of the area. This particular beach was voted the best beach in the world on TripAdvisor early in 2015. Just months later, on the 21st of December 2015, that would soon change, and terror would grip the tourist hotspot. 32-year-old accountant Marcio de Castopalma and his wife were snorkeling off the very same beach. Despite the renowned clear waters, the water was a little murky on this day. With his head dipped beneath the warm Brazilian sea, Marcio swam towards some of the clearer water. He was watching some of the fish swim by. Their bright colors were mesmerizing, their movements agile as they flitted left and right. As he turned his head to look the other way, Marcio came face to face with a shark. It had completely taken him by surprise. It had swum upon him in seconds, and now its toothy grin stared Marcio directly in the face. Alarmed by its sudden appearance, Marcio began to swim away, but as he did so, it bit into his arm. It shook him violently, dragging him down to the seafloor. Marcio let out an underwater cry as the horror unfolded. He could feel the pressure of thousands of years of evolution clamp down on his arm. The shark pulled and tugged so hard that Marcio's arm was severed from his body. The release allowed him to surface. When he bobbed up, he gasped for air and screamed for help. Luckily for him, British man Barney Lancaster Owen had been swimming in the exact same spot only 10 minutes earlier. The 36-year-old Brit had been living in Brazil for 3 years and was on a family holiday with his Brazilian-born wife Isabel and their 2 children, 6-year-old Theodora and 4-year-old Tiago. Barney was drying himself on the golden sand, toweling himself after an exhilarating snorkel. He looked out across the water and then heard the Portuguese cry for help. All of a sudden, he spotted the commotion of Marcio's attack. At first, he thought that the young Brazilian was messing around with his wife. But then the water frothed and bubbled red. The young man was screaming and shouting, desperately trying to pull himself out of the jaws of the shark. With no regard for his own safety, Barney jumped into the water. He swam over to the troubled Brazilian. When he got to him, he saw the extent of his injuries. He was shocked to see Marcio's right arm missing. The lower arm had been taken off by the shark. The bone was sticking out and the muscle was torn open. Barney grabbed the man around the torso and began helping him to shore. Then he stopped. He asked Marcio if he wanted him to search for his missing arm in case it could be saved. In a calm manner, Marcio replied that he just wanted to get out of the water as quickly as possible. He was terrified the shark would come back for more. Whilst pushing through the water with the injured Marcio, it suddenly hit Barney how dangerous his rescue mission was. They were leaving a significant trail of blood behind in the water. The shark could be circling below them. He had to put himself in harm's way to save the life of a complete stranger. But still he powered through the water towards the beach. Luckily, they both made it back to shore without further incident. They were at the far end of the beach. There was no one else in sight apart from Marcio's wife, who was in shock and unable to help. Barney knew he had to act fast. He carefully took Marcio's life jacket off as well as his goggles. He threaded his severed arm stump through the armhole of the life jacket. Blood poured from the open wound. Marcio held his severed stump up above his head with his other hand as he and Barney half walked, half stumbled 400 yards along the beach to the nearest beach shop. Marcio remained incredibly calm. He just focused on taking one step in front of the other, keeping his breathing steady and holding on to his stump. When they got there, Marcio slumped down. Barney grabbed a sarong to fashion a tourniquet. He tied it tightly around Marcio's severed arm in an attempt to stem the bleeding. Emergency services were called and Marcio was rushed to the archipelago's only hospital. Surgeons patched them up as best they could, but the next day he was transferred to Hospital de la Restauración on the mainland where he underwent surgery. After the attack, Barney found out the beach they were swimming on was a known feeding ground for sharks. The most likely species for the attack on Marcio was a tiger shark. It was the first shark attack at the beach in living memory. Although most recorded shark attacks on humans are caused by great whites, tiger sharks are thought to be responsible for the most unprovoked attacks. Globally, there are around 50 to 70 shark attacks each year, with 5 to 15 being fatal. Considering the huge number of people who enter the water each year, attacks are incredibly rare, and you would have to be incredibly unlucky to encounter one. 60-year-old John Merrick was enjoying a pre-birthday swim off Makua Beach, Oahu, Hawaii. It was June 24, 2003, and retired accountant John was swimming with his wife, Stephanie, in the crystal-clear waters of the Pacific Ocean. They were about 150 meters from shore, where a few tourist boats had congregated. The reason for the outing was to watch and swim with spinner dolphins. Renowned for their acrobatic displays, spinner dolphins are a sight to behold. As John and Stephanie dropped into the water that day, they were amongst 6 other people, all there to witness the pod of 30 to 40 dolphins leaping out of the water. If they had known what marine biologist John Naughton had known, they may have remained on the boat. John Naughton was a member of the Hawaii State Shark Task Force and worked for the National Marine Fisheries Service. He and his colleagues had noticed a change in the behavior of great white sharks off the coast of Hawaii over the past 2 years. Although sightings of this species of shark are very rare near Hawaii, unlike tiger sharks, it had been noted that they were beginning to hunt spinner dolphins. In fact, to swim with spinner dolphins in a large pod was putting yourself at risk. Any change in the dolphin's behavior could be a sign of imminent danger. And that is just what happened. John dipped his face below the surface of the water. He enjoyed watching the splashes of the dolphins underwater as they landed after their aerial acrobatics and watched as they were surrounded briefly by a swarm of bubbles. The pod came together and swam several feet below John, Stephanie, and the rest of the group. It was incredible the speed they could swim at with only the slightest flicking of their tails. John and Stephanie had done this many times before. They were both fond of the sea, and being able to watch these majestic animals was both enjoyable and exhilarating. As John swam above the pod, they suddenly took off like rockets. Speeding away into the distant blue, John was momentarily puzzled by their behavior. Then he felt a sharp tug on his foot. He didn't immediately recognize the sensation at first. It had taken him by surprise. Whatever it was, it had squeezed John's foot for a moment and then let go. John's foot stung. It felt like sharp pricks all over it. He turned to look around. As he did so, a large silvery body swam beneath him. That's when he recognized it was a shark. John's immediate thought was for the safety of his wife. He wasn't concerned with his bite at the time because it wasn't too painful. He was intent on getting between the shark and his wife as it loitered in the area, swimming slowly beneath them. He lifted his head above the surface of the water and shouted for Stephanie to get out of the water. When he looked back at the shore, he knew it was too risky for them to swim that far with a predator beneath them. When he looked at his foot underwater, it was bleeding badly. He knew his fresh blood would only entice the animal, so he called a nearby tourist boat. John and Stephanie swam as fast as they could to the boat. It was 60 feet away. The thought of the shark trailing them filled them with terror. The boat's skipper, Victor Lozano of Dolphin Excursions Hawaii, scanned the sea surface for any sign of the shark. Mercifully, John and Stephanie made it to the rigid inflatable, and Victor hauled them on board. They both lay there, breathless. Victor applied first aid to John's foot. The bite, although it only lasted a second or two, had left deep tooth marks on his foot and ankle. It had torn through John's skin and possibly fractured the bones. Victor elevated John's foot, applied pressure, and wrapped it in a bandage. He motored the couple to shore, where John was transferred to Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Clinic. There was an orthopedic surgeon at the clinic who tended to John's injury. After receiving dozens of stitches, John was released the very same day. The surgeon said that whilst it can take up to 4 weeks to fully heal, John was lucky the bite did not damage any ligaments or tendons. It is likely the shark let John go as he was a case of mistaken identity. They generally go for blubbery animals, and John's ankle was far from that. At the time, John was swimming with the pod of dolphins, which is why the shark had bitten and then immediately released him. John celebrated his 61st birthday the day after the attack. He said he hasn't been put off swimming in the sea and will likely continue to swim with dolphins in the future, as it is something he and his wife really enjoy doing.